But going carnivore, from burning mostly sugar to burning fat, like instantly, I was eating much more fruit probably than Saladino was when I was eating meat and fruit. So I was burning sugar when I played soccer. When I cut out the fruit, it completely transformed. So my coach told me, he's like, I've never seen anyone improve this much in such a short period of time. And the time in which I improved coincided with the removal of fruit. I tell this to people a lot when they ask, how does this affect your brain? And some people don't believe me, but I feel like since cutting out the fruit, I almost have a larger pool of words to choose from. I feel like my mind is more clear. It's kind of a strange phenomenon to describe. I just feel like I can think better. I can remember things much easier. I have a more vast vocabulary. It's kind of incredible, and it's pretty crazy to people to ponder the fact that food can have such a powerful effect on even things like how intelligent you are.
All right, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. We've got Joey Schwartz. Looks like he's in the house here. I see him. Joey, just have to unmute yourself. I guess he goes by Carnivore Camaraderie. Jody, welcome. How you doing, man? Can you hear me?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of your stuff. You know, I saw how UCLA or USC is trying to ban you from eating meat in their cafeteria, some crazy nonsense like that. So where are you located? You're in California somewhere, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm in LA, just a few minutes from UCLA.
UCLA, okay. Yeah, I've got a niece that goes over there. Tell us a little bit about yourself then, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So my mom's a nutritionist, so I've always been super fascinated in nutrition, trying to find the best food to eat to ensure longevity, happiness, overall satisfaction in life. And I was terribly misguided, from a very young age.
By your mom?
By everyone. Yeah. We had the egg whites, we had the chicken breast. I never had any fat as a child.
Okay.
Lots of salads. And so that, and then eventually I started getting into weightlifting, right? So I'm trying to get stronger. I'm trying to get bigger. And what I quickly realized is that diet is an integral component when it comes to putting on muscle. And what I'm learning online is that it's absolutely essential that you pound the bananas, you pound all the whey protein, and you eat low fat, you eat avocados if you're going to have any fat, no saturated fat whatsoever, egg whites, pure protein, no fat, lots of carbs. And it completely destroyed me. So I started getting skin issues. All these problems just started manifesting, and it was a big issue for me. And then I started learning more about ketogenic diets. So I was looking at these trials where they're basically putting people on high carb versus low carb. And basically every time you see the biomarkers are improved in the people who are eating low carb. So I start getting an understanding of this. Okay, why don't I try eating less carbs? So I do. And I start feeling ways. But the problem was I was eating so many vegetables, right? So I was cooking tons of broccoli, peppers, all in olive oil. And after I would eat this big meal full of fiber, so much stuff, so much food, so much bulk, I would just get this terrible stomach ache. I'd feel lethargic. And it was pretty bad. My energy levels were slightly more sustained relative to how I was doing when on this so-called bodybuilder diet, but it was still pretty bad. And then I start scrolling through TikTok one day. Paul Saladino is talking about kale is poisonous. How could this be true? I keep scrolling. This has to be nonsense, right? But it keeps popping up. It keeps popping up again and again. He's saying green stuff is bad for you. Vegetables are bad for you. And I say, okay, maybe I can do some research and lend credence to this if it makes some sense. Okay. I started looking into what vegetables are. Well, they're the roots, the tubers, the leaves, the stems, all the parts of the plant that don't want to be eaten, and therefore they have these biological chemical warfare mechanisms embedded within them, so they can prevent you from eating them. And they really are trying to kill you. They don't want another generation of people running around eating those plants. They want you dead. And I say, okay, this makes sense. So I start eating meat and fruit, inspired by Paul Saladino, of course. And I did that for 6 months. And then eventually I realized that the fruit made no sense. It was completely illogical to eat year round. It was not ancestrally appropriate. The fruit's genetically modified, biologically engineered to be sweeter than it would have been in nature. And it just didn't make sense. So for 6 months, I've been eating only meat. It really transformed my life. And, I'm trying to spread that message now.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, You're not the first person I've seen that has had that sort of transformation. Obviously, I've been doing this for many, many years now. And one of the things is that, whether we talk about toxicity in vegetables or things like that, some people are affected by them. Some people do fine with them. And it's interesting, but I think most people, when they remove them, it's surprising how they often feel better. And it's just something we're not taught, because your mom as a nutritionist is probably saying, as a kid, I was told to eat my vegetables. I didn't like them. I never liked them. I still don't like them. But we're told to continually eat these things. And one of it's because they're cheaper to produce, it's filler. It's cheaper on the pocketbook if you can just shove a bunch of fiber in there and fill you up and kind of shut you up, if you really want some high quality nutrition. So I'm interested to see, because, a lot of people are sort of, this sort of, when I started doing a carnivore diet, it was pretty much just straight up meat, maybe some eggs, maybe a little bit of dairy. There wasn't all this fruit and stuff being added to it. And so now some people have popularized, there's a number of people out there popularizing the way of, eating a lot of fruit and honey and molasses and maple syrup and all this kind of sugary stuff that some people just don't do well with. And I'm just kind of curious as to your sort of evolution from going to, obviously, that bodybuilder, whey protein, chicken breast, lots of carbs for energy, then on to this kind of meat, fruit type of diet, and then on to plain meat. Did you where were you feeling your best at?
Oh, the meat for sure. The meat was the meat only diet was drastically superior to the fruit, and I just had more energy. Eating so much fruit, I would still feel a little bit tired after. It wasn't great. But the real reason I switched from fruit and meat to only meat was because I learned what the purpose of fructose in nature is. I mean, you see all these animals during the warmer months, they eat fruit to get fat. I mean, fructose, there's clear mechanisms in place for the conversion of fructose to fat. So I started really trying to understand, what does fructose do? And as I started learning about it, I was sort of, it took me back, because I realized that the glycation caused by fructose is extremely detrimental. They're just taking studies where they're comparing glucose, fructose, and sucrose, and in the fructose group, they have the most severe glycation. I mean, it just causes all these metabolic problems. It causes fatty liver. It causes more fat deposition relative to even glucose. It causes more hunger. It impairs memory. It's found in severely high quantities in the people with ADHD and various psychiatric issues. It's this is something I definitely want to stay away from. So it makes sense that I felt a lot better, because it really is a poison. I really believe sugar is a poison.
There's certainly a lot of studies, and as you pointed out, fructose tends to be more glycating. Some estimates between 10 and 20 times more glycating than an equal molecule of glucose. Generally, we have a lot less fructose circulating in our blood than we do glucose, for sure. And it's interesting, because you compare a bear. When a bear wants to get fat and hibernate, they crush a bunch of berries, and maybe there's some reason for appetite stimulation to encourage fat deposition. So you have this sort of mechanism by which, if you were going to hibernate, that would be perhaps a good thing to develop fat, maybe even a fatty liver that you could eat off of over the 6 months you're hibernating, or 4 months, or however long bears hibernate. I'm not sure, but we're not a hibernating species. And so perhaps there are some downsides to it. Let me ask you, because, now you're on this sort of all meat diet. A lot of people think that's crazy. But honestly, and you can, there's kind of people, all people are going to debate this study and that study, and fructose is not bad. It's only a problem in high caloric excesses. And some people say it's uniquely problematic. You look at guys like Dr. Robbie Lustig. But at the end of the day, it's what works for you. And, you can say there and say, these are what the studies show, but what's actually happening in your body? And so what is, if you were to say, how did I feel on, fruit or other things versus how do I feel on this? What is the difference, the real difference for you?
Yeah. So there's actually some very, very profound differences. When I was eating the fruit plus the meat, my quality of sleep was lower. So I required more sleep for even less energy during the day. Now I can sleep 6 to 8 hours and be totally alert, wake up in the morning, feel amazing, get out of bed, feel just awesome, fantastic. But back then it wasn't like that at all. My athletic performance is something else that excelled. So when I cut out the vegetables and did the fruit and meat for 6 months, I was playing soccer pretty competitively, and I played very well. I improved my performance pretty significantly since cutting out the vegetables, which, were really holding me back. And then when I cut out the fruit, it completely transformed. So my coach told me, he's like, I've never seen anyone improve this much in such a short period of time. And the time in which I improved coincided with the removal of fruit. So I got faster, I got stronger, I could run nonstop the whole game. It was like I had just unlimited energy. And even now, if I want to lift weights, so I want to put on a little bit of muscle, I can do that so easily. I mean, all I need to do is go do a couple sets of pull-ups or push-ups to failure, and I will start realizing that I'm putting on muscle. So if I want to get big, I mean, if somebody wants to put on a lot of muscle, this is the way to do it, especially, at whatever age. So, and also just I feel like I tell this to people a lot when they ask, how does this affect your brain? And some people don't believe me, but I feel like since cutting out the fruit, I almost have a larger pool of words to choose from. I feel like my mind is more clear. It's kind of a strange phenomenon to describe. I just feel like I can think better. I can remember things much easier. I have a more vast vocabulary. It's kind of incredible, and it's pretty crazy to people to ponder the fact that food can have such a powerful effect on even things like how intelligent you are. I mean, I really believe that that food is that important.
Hey folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. If you guys are enjoying these success stories, well, you can become your own success story. You can do that by heading over to Carnivore.diet. You can sign up for a free 30-day trial and get started today. We're looking forward to supporting you. Our community is wonderful, and we'd love to see your success. Yeah, I mean, it's, when you mentioned about muscle building, I mean, clearly, and, you're still young enough where it's relatively easy to put on muscle. You're still relatively, you don't have 10 years of training behind you with weightlifting. But, we know, I mean, the requirements for building muscle are simple. They are consistent, regular, resistance training done, appropriately, and then protein and then calories. And carbohydrates are not part of that equation. Now, they can help fuel you, but if you're fat adapted, you can fuel your workout that way. So there's no reason you can't put on muscle without carbohydrate. That's a complete fallacy. You're mentioning about the cognition. I see it all the time. People talk about they just feel sharper mentally. Their mood is better. So that's got to help. So let me just go back to, because I mentioned this at the beginning. I saw, you put up a video about how there's a school meal plan. And, you're like, and they cater to vegetarians and vegans and people with different dietary things. And you said, hey, look, I just eat meat. And they said, no, we're not going to support you. Can you go into a little bit how that played out?
Yeah. So it's pretty shocking, honestly. They have meat on their menu, chicken, beef, just steaks, all this stuff, right. But they refuse to cook it in anything besides canola oil. Which is it's just unbelievable. She says, I was talking to the nutritionist, and she says, well, the science doesn't support using like a saturated fat.
So if you have an allergy to something, they would say, well, too bad, you just got to deal with this allergy. I mean, could you go that route? I wonder.
I did. I told her I have a reaction to seed oils, and I have a reaction to vegetables as well. And she said, well, we're not going to cook in anything besides canola oil. She said, we only use a little bit, so you should still eat it. It's not a big deal. But I'm not going to eat something that's cooked in seed oils, especially if I have to do it on a daily basis, twice or 2 or 3 times a day when I eat. If it's constantly being cooked in seed oils, there's no way I'm going to do it. And it's just so shocking, because they do cater to vegans, vegetarians, people who go on these ridiculous diets. I think they cater even to the McDougall starch diet, which is just unbelievable. I know some people who actually go into UCLA and are on that diet, and they're accommodating it because they think that the evidence supports it. It's just unbelievable. And they're not going to, they're not going to provide for someone who only eats meat and only eats animal products. I even explained to her, I said, how could you say that the natural human diet, the diet that we've evolved on for at least, 2 to 4 million years, is going to be the thing that is killing us? And she says, well, like there's just no evidence for it. And it was kind of, I was sitting there, I was just kind of baffled. I mean, how could somebody be so ignorant? But this is the standard of care today. And I'm working to still convince them, but it's they're pretty close-minded.
Well, I mean, and again, it's you can argue what the natural diet is, but we were not cooking with canola oil. I mean, that's a relatively recent introduction to the human diet, and so I'm just wondering, like if you said, hey, if you're a vegan and they say, hey, these green beans have been cooked in butter, just suck it up. It's only a little bit. Don't worry about it. How they would freak out, and there would be a deal. And I don't know if you can pursue action on that. Let me ask you, your mother's a nutritionist. She clearly probably would not have chosen an all meat diet for her. I mean, what does she think about this thing? Does she think you're nuts, or is she trying to push you away from this, or what's going on with that?
Yeah. So when I was doing the fruit and the meat, I was still able to sort of bypass a lot of the skepticism from friends and family because there was still some color on my plate. I was eating the meat and there was also some berries or some fruit or some honey, whatever. Mm-hmm. So there was some color and I didn't really get many questions at school. People just neglected it. It was fine. But then when I go only meat, that's when everyone starts asking questions. And my mom is saying, Joey, what are you doing? Why no vegetables? Where are the fruits? I'm really worried about you. And all the while I'm working on this carnivore essay for my English class because we were given an assignment to write a persuasive essay on a topic of our choosing. And I took the opportunity to talk about the carnivore diet. So I write a 50-page essay on the carnivore diet. I want to become an expert on it so I can, justify this to anyone who asks me. And, now I can do that. So I'm just laboring away at this essay. And then by the time people start to catch on to what I'm doing, I can explain it to them. So my mom's asking me, Joey, well, what are you doing? How are you eating only meat? And I can explain it to her. I mean, I say, Mom, if we look into nature, everything eats their natural diet. And this is the approach that I've been employing with basically everyone who sort of inquires diet. I said, if you look into nature, animals eat their natural diet and they don't suffer the Western illnesses that we suffer. They're actually very, very healthy. And they eventually succumb to senescence, but humans should be living to probably 120 to 150. That's probably our biological set point. If we ate our natural diet and we lived as naturally as we possibly can, I think we would be reaching those numbers. And she starts thinking about it, and of course, she's highly skeptical, as one would expect. But she starts asking me more questions, and my mom's very open-minded. She's just been a victim of the indoctrination and tons of years of schooling, the Dietetics Association, all this stuff, and she understood pretty quickly that this was a pretty safe way to eat. I was able to relay that message onto her, pretty effectively. But the problem is, she's been a nutritionist for 20 something years. And when you've been sort of using the same approach for so long, and you've had the same clients for years on end, it's very, very difficult to say, well, here's what I want you all to do. I want you to start eating, lots of fatty meat, start cutting out the vegetables, start cutting out the fruits and the grains, all the stuff that you've been told for all of your lives is healthy for you. And just start eating more meat. It's very, very difficult, and it would probably result in the loss of her license to practice. And I understand that. Plus, I also understand when doctors refuse to adopt this. To a degree, I can sort of conceptualize what's going on there. By switching your approach so drastically, you're basically conceding to the notion that what you've been practicing is entirely wrong. If you say that, no, don't eat grains anymore, don't eat the vegetables, don't eat the fruits, and say, go on a meat-only diet, you're admitting that what you've done for your entire career has been harmful to people because the exact opposite is what you now believe is best. So, yeah, when it comes to my mom, she recognizes that carnivore is best. And, she realizes that, hasn't done it herself just because, still sort of has this mental blockade. I'm trying to get my family on it, but it's tough. But, my mom knows, and I think a lot of people know. They're just scared to really internalize it because of the implications, as I mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what is tough. And, as a physician, when I see like particularly certain conditions like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, certain autoimmune disease respond so well, so much better than really anything out there. And, it should be the default sort of treatment option for at least for some conditions. And then you can debate about, who else may or may not benefit from it. But I mean, and we fortunately now have some physicians that have stepped up, and I'll just share this little bit of thing. We're for our company Revero, we're going to be using many diets, but including carnivore diets. We've had over, we just put out a call for healthcare providers. We already had 200 applicants that have said, "Hey, I want to be part of this changing the paradigm type of stuff. So it's really encouraging to see that. And how old are you now, Joe? You're just what, freshman in college?
Yeah, I'm 18.
18. And so this is not a normal diet for an 18-year-old. There's far more people in your cohort that are going to plant-based and, trying to get on board with whatever, they're just trying, we see that as each subsequent generation becomes more and more receptive to really eating an artificial diet. That's really what I would call it, because, anytime you break all this food down, monocrop everything, synthesize it, and then just make it into some shape. Oh, it tastes and looks like this. And there's people more accepting that. What do your peers think about you?
Yeah, they a lot of them think I'm crazy until they ask me about it and they start to understand. The issue is that there's such a perceived disconnect between the food we eat and the way that they think that it's going to affect us. So they don't think that it's going to really have this impact on us, which is why they're not going to implement such a major change. So a lot of them think it's ridiculous, right? But the ones that actually care enough to inquire and ask questions, I can sort of convince them pretty quickly. It's not very difficult to get them on board with this, and at least make them understand that this is a way of living that can actually be very healthy. So I've actually convinced some friends to go carnivore, and of course it changes their lives. And once they do, it starts to spread a little bit more. So then maybe they get their uncle to do it, and then he gets his kids to do it. Now their cousins are doing it, and now it's just sort of a cascade effect. But I go to school. I went to high school in West LA, like the epitome of veganism, salad eating, all that stuff. And so it was tough. My teachers were vegetarians mostly. Tons of my class, half my English class was basically vegan in 12th grade. And so I'm surrounded by vegans. And of course, when I do this carnivore essay that I mentioned, people are sort of taken back by it. But of course, all these people who are vegan are also extremely sick. You could tell that they're vegan. If I showed you pictures of everyone in my class, you would be able to tell who's a vegan just because of what features they exhibit. And so what I did was pretty offensive to some people. Being being in a class with so many conformists, being essentially the only non-conformist in this regard, was a little bit sequestering. I felt isolated at times. But I feel sort of gratified for having gotten a lot of people to start this. It brings me a lot of joy. I'm sure you can resonate with that. Just having such a powerful effect on people's lives and just changing, completely pivoting the trajectory of their life with dietary intervention.
I'm very fortunate. I see every day people that are affected very positively by making these changes. And we are seeing this, continued growing effect, this grassroots, as one person, becomes an example for other people and they want to know what's going on. What is how much, I know this is something that is, and I don't know how bad it is at UCLA, but are you seeing a lot of issues with people with mental illness, obesity? Is that pretty common on the campus? How frequently you see that?
Oh my God. Everyone is on antidepressants. Everyone is taking some sort of medication for ADHD. And at the start of high school, I started noticing it. Everyone was taking all these pills, and I thought, okay, this is normal. This is fine, whatever. And that's what everyone thought. And now in retrospect, I think how absolutely insane it is that you have kids who are on all these medications, and it's so unbelievable. Even now, I just feel like appalled thinking about it, because these are mental illnesses that are almost entirely predicated on malnutrition. It's just ridiculous. It's kind of difficult. I've talked to friends with depression. I have a lot of friends who suffer with anxiety and depression. And when we go out together and they're eating pizza and cookies, I just think how this is just feeding into that depression, these chemical imbalances in the brain, these GABA glutamate imbalances, which we know ketogenic diets have a positive effect on. And I know people who have started eating less carbs and immediately they feel mentally better. And keep in mind, I went to a school in LA where people come from pretty like well-off backgrounds. These people don't have a lot of trauma in their lives. I know that for a fact. So you have these people coming from like beautiful houses in Bel Air and Beverly Hills and Santa Monica, and yet they're suffering with this severe clinical depression that clearly is not trauma induced. Something is going on there with various environmental factors, probably pertaining to diet. No, certainly pertaining to diet. I can see it very, very clearly. And the fact that people have yet to make this association between diet and like mental well-being is kind of unbelievable to me. I mean, it's still hard to fathom, especially when we see animals in nature eating their natural diet, living naturally. We know that they're not depressed. I mean, of course they're not depressed. They wouldn't have evolved to be depressed as a function of what they're eating. It would make zero sense. And when I say this to people, they kind of agree, but there's also this problem where people don't like taking responsibility for their own issues. It's much easier to say, well, the reason I'm depressed is because it runs in my family. And maybe that's true. Maybe you are predisposed to having depression, right? I'm certainly predisposed to having heart disease. I have family members who died at age 50 because of heart attacks. That's fine. I'm not going to get heart disease because it's the environmental triggers that are going to cause that heart disease. It's not like I'm doomed to get that problem. It's like if you have an allergy to cashews, which I do, I don't experience the negative effects of that allergy unless I actually ingest the cashews. If I don't eat cashews, I will never know that I had that susceptibility in the first place. So when I'm talking about these people who have depression and they're justifying it by saying it runs in their families, fine, but you're still not doomed to experience that depression if you do the right things to avoid the triggers that are going to cause it. And I try to explain this to people, but again, they like the idea that some sort of environmental factor can affect your mental health is tough for some people to accept, because that would mean that you are essentially responsible for your own like problems in life. And it's pretty easy to just assume lack of responsibility when it comes to this stuff. Oh, it's genetic, nothing you could do about it. But that's just a false reality that's being perpetuated. And I think the sooner we can establish the link between nutrition and mental health, the sooner people can start to get better and actually heal via things other than psychotropic medications that don't work very well.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be interested to look at the work of Dr. Chris Palmer out of Harvard. He's doing, maybe you're familiar with him, he's doing a lot of work on bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, depression, so on and so forth, using low carb ketogenics and carnivore diets. And so I think it's been shown. And you mentioned these people from Bel Air, and I know people that live there. I've been visited them. It's a nice place for sure. And I mean, they don't suffer from poverty, but they could still have some sort of traumas. I mean, the traumas can exist in any socioeconomic strata. But one of the things I wonder, you just came out of high school. I mean, we assume when you go to high school, you learn about history and you learn about math and you learn about geometry and, biology and all this stuff. How much did they spend any time like sort of propagandizing about politics or ways of eating or any of that stuff? How much was that built into the education right now? Are they telling you, hey, you need to go vegan to save the planet or stop eating meat? Was that part of the curriculum at all?
Oh my God, yes. Yes. I had an earth and space science class. And in that class, we're talking about how to reduce our carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. And we're like doing these online simulations where you're essentially putting in how much meat you eat, how far do you drive in your car. But the amount of meat you eat was an integral part of this assessment that's going to determine how much carbon you're responsible for emitting into the atmosphere. And like essentially like the amount of meat you ate was equated to have like a linear effect on how much carbon, or on like how negatively you're affecting the environment. So the people who ate more meat were being told that they're destroying the world.
Did they? I wonder. I sorry to interrupt you, but did they talk about healthcare and if you have an illness, you're creating more carbon because the healthcare sector puts out 10% of our greenhouse gases? Was that part of the metric? Probably not.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. But that's actually what I researched. And in the end of my carnivore essay, what I wanted to address was the environmental component. And I started thinking about this. Well, what effect does the healthcare system have on the environment? Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely detrimental. I mean, diabetics are like the production of insulin is so carbon dependent. It's kind of it's kind of hard to believe. I don't remember the exact number, but it is exponentially greater than that of a meat eater. So if you eat a bunch of grain, I mean, so like there's this idea that instead of like take out the middleman, right? The cows are the middleman that are eating the grains, and then we eat the cows. So these vegans say, take out the middleman, just eat the grains, and we'll have more energy. We can feed the whole world. Well, no, not really, because the problem with that is that sure, we can eat all the grains, but what's going to happen is we're very quickly going to become diabetic. We're going to completely just infiltrate the healthcare system with sickness and disease, and our requirement for insulin production is going to spike just to an insane amount. And so the stuff doesn't work. I mean, when we neglect the actual health outcomes from eating grains and all these other plants, it's just ignorant, because it's important.
Yeah, and and it's not even just eating grain. I mean, these animals eat grass mostly. I mean, grains are a small part of their diet, if any, for many of them, depending on how they're finished. And so you and I can't eat grass. I mean, we just can't survive on that. So it's more than just whether or not we can convert some of that to grains, which is, I mean, this is an argument the sort of plant-based people like to use. Well, cows eat most of the grains. Well, that's not true. I mean, they eat about a third of cereal grains worldwide. And most of that is the leftovers that we couldn't eat anyway. And so it's kind of one of those things where their arguments, sort of when you critically look at them, really fall by the wayside. And, when you look at just production of crops, particularly monocrops, you see all the destruction. I mean, it's a complete kill zone. I mean, everything's dead to plant those crops. And then the downstream effects of that are enormous. When you kill all the bugs off of land, then all the birds and all the animals that rely on those bugs die. And it's just the amount of death and destruction that you don't see is just orders of magnitude than what might end up on your plate. What is a day for you? I mean, what is your major, by the way? What do you study?
I'm still not totally sure because I don't know if I want to graduate college, just because I don't know if I want to. If I were to run through the whole college process, the only thing that would make sense would be to go to med school and become a doctor and do all that. But it seems like a lot to go through, and it's a lot of misinformation to suffer from along that road. I just don't know if I'm up for it. So I'm deciding either I go all in and do the whole med school thing and become a doctor where people can really trust me and have that sort of impact, or if I just leave now, educate myself on my own, which I love to do. I'm always going to be an avid learner, whether I'm in school or not. And so I'm still figuring that out. But as of right now, something biochemistry, psychobiology, physiology, something along those lines.
Yeah, well, and I can tell you that medical school and that route is a lot of work. Having gone through it, was like something like 13 years of education and a lot of sleepless nights doing surgical training and stuff like that. So there's a lot to it. And as far as your trust is concerned, you get some credentials behind your name and that gives you some things. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I think particularly now we're seeing less and less trust in the medical profession for various reasons. And so again, I think if you can produce results, that one of the things I think people are waking up to is that, what are the results of the medical profession? Well, you got a bunch of people basically stuck on pharmaceuticals for the rest of their life, and they're not really quality of life's not that much better. So in some cases it can be a great thing, but in many cases it falls short. So undeclared major, what classes are you taking currently? Just kind of the general classes. And then what does your day look like for you now? How do you eat? How do you manage to navigate this diet? How often do you eat? How much do you eat? How's that work for you as a college student?
Yeah. So I moved into college actually today, like in 2 hours. I moved to UCLA and I'm going to be there. So I haven't actually started yet. I've been at home and I eat twice a day between 3 and 5 pounds of meat. Even when I don't exercise, I eat so much meat. I had a little growth spurt. Actually, I'm 18. I'm not really supposed to be growing that much. I had a recent growth spurt, which is pretty cool. And like hopefully I'll keep growing, which should be awesome.
3 to 5 pounds is a decent amount. How big are you? What do you weigh?
I'm between 5'10" and a half and 170. So I'm not even that big of a guy. I just cause
that's about what I eat, between 3 and 5 pounds, and I'm 250, 6'5", 250. But I'm not growing as actively as you are. As much as I, try to do that stuff. So you eat twice a day. You cook for yourself. Mom cooking for you. I mean, are you at home right now, or where are you at?
I'm at home. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'm about to move out. Actually, just have have all my bags packed. Yeah, I cook for myself. At school, I'm probably just going to. I have I brought a little crock pot with me. Super easy to use. I'll just throw a few pounds of meat in there, probably in the morning. Let it go for the day, and then when I come home from classes and doing work and interviews with people and making content and like whatever consults I do, like whatever, I'll come back and I'll eat a few pounds of meat and I'll call it a day. So it shouldn't be too difficult. I'm not going to eat their food. I'm not going to eat a bunch of seed oils. It's not worth it. So yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do.
As you start to reach out on social media, anytime, you get any kind of people with eyes on you, you get some that don't like you. I mean, I know I've had, for years, people think I'm the most evil person on the planet because I tell people to eat meat. I mean, it's like, okay, whatever. Are you getting some of that? Are you getting some of the blowback? Are you getting some of the vegans and some of these people that are plant-based saying, hey, you're stupid, you're ugly, you smell bad, you're an evil person, you're a murderer? And do you get any of that stuff thrown your way yet?
Yeah, I do. I remember when I started my YouTube channel, I would get like a few comments a day. And I was like, this is so cool. People are actually listening to my stuff. They're actually engaging with my stuff. This is awesome. And now I'm getting like 400, 500 comments a day. And I just think, and I try to read it through all of them. It's pretty difficult, but I'd say for every 30 to 40 people who are saying the carnivore diet is the best thing that ever happened to me, I need to start eating more meat. This is amazing. There's that one vegan or a couple vegans who are just saying, no, this is wrong. You look like this. You're not healthy. And, I can just say, well, I'm healthier than I've ever been in my life. And like, they're really not worth the time of day. They're clearly mentally disturbed. They're not functioning well. Which, it's very clear. And, I just think how I'm so much more able to handle criticism and handle difficult situations now than I was before. I don't know if this is something that you notice, but I've had to deal with some pretty stressful, pretty detrimental situations in the past 6 months, and being in this mindset where I'm just so much more calm. I don't feel aggressive. I feel relaxed and able to really focus and think clearly. I'm able to just deal with these issues to a much greater degree. So maybe in the past, if I wasn't on carnivore and I'm getting all this criticism, it'd have an effect on me. But now I can just sort of blow it off, laugh at it, and just hope one day there's a strong enough catalyst for them to start eating a species appropriate diet and turn their lives around.
Yeah. I mean, as far as, it's kind of interesting when we talk about species appropriate diet. I mean, what sort of, well, let me ask you this. I mean, what got you down this carnivore path in the first place? I mean, was it just curiosity? I mean, because you're 18, you're 17 when you maybe started. I don't know how old you were when you started, but most people at 17 are in pretty good shape. I mean, they're not sick, so what made you do this? Was it just wanting to be different, try to explore, or was there really a real concern?
Well, I remember I got rosacea. So my skin was like, my cheeks were super red. I still have it slightly, but it's gotten so much better. It'll be gone soon enough, I'm sure. But, we talked to a dermatologist and she's recommending some creams to do and some medication to take. And I was thinking to myself, this is so stupid. I mean, there's something that's not right here. Humans should not have rosacea. There's clearly something that I'm doing wrong. And she's saying, you're going to be stuck with this for your whole life. It wasn't this drastic problem that I had. I wasn't terribly depressed or chronically fatigued. Like I couldn't go out all the time. I was bedridden. No, it wasn't any of that. It was just something so minor. And I just realized this is not normal. I mean, people should not have rosacea. This is crazy. And just the way that she went about treating it was even more ridiculous to me. Why would you need a pill or a cream to fix this? So I figured humans and, eating a natural diet, living in an evolutionarily appropriate context would not have had rosacea. So that was what stimulated me to go on this journey.
Yeah, I wanted to, because you said something earlier that I think is something, it's interesting because there's a lot of folks out there that think that college, like I went to school, that was what I did. I mean, this is gosh, 30 some years ago. Gosh, almost 40 now that I think about it, getting old. It was like, that was the thing you did. And, in particular, if you get a science degree, and it's still, I think some of the STEM deals, college is very effective. But I mean, there's some people say, well, what's the point of a liberal arts degree or business degree? You can do all that stuff. There's so many ways to learn outside of that environment. And some people think that the colleges more so are just kind of indoctrination camps. I've heard that that sort of comparison there. And so you certainly can be very successful and learn a lot and learn about the real world and without the college degree for sure. And there's a lot of successful people that have done it that route. And I think it's something that's interesting. I mean, obviously if you want to be a physician, there's no way around it. You're not going to be the YouTube doc and operate on people. It's just not, I don't think that'll ever be occurring. But do you have any, is there a group of, I mean, you said you've got some people that have converted to carnivore, or maybe you've had a few. Are you guys kind of like a bunch of black sheep that kind of, I mean, I don't know, do you guys hang out together, or how do you guys, I mean, are most of your friends, I assume most of your friends are omnivorous. You probably don't have too many vegan friends, I'm guessing.
No, I don't. No. Yeah. So my friends who like are carnivore, they moved away. So I'm actually just kind of starting with a clean slate now. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to school and hopefully meet like-minded people. But something that's really cool about the carnivore space is that everybody within it is so open-minded. I mean, this is such a amazing demographic of people, because to be on a carnivore diet, you need to be very, very open-minded. You need to be able to be a nonconformist and consider alternative possibilities to the ones that we've been told for so long. So it's a really cool group of people. I've met some of the most amazing people ever just in my life, had some of the best conversations with people who've been able to figure this out. Because like I said, if you can figure this out, you're a pretty amazing, special person. I really believe that. And, just touching on what you said about college, I totally agree. I love learning, and part of me wants to drop out of college so I can learn more. I mean, it sounds hypocritical, but I almost want to drop out for the sake of my education, so I can actually learn what I want to learn and not learn these the propaganda that they purport and inflict onto their students. I know people who are going into college with who want to do computer science. They're paying UCLA $40,000 a year to learn computer science, when the programs for computer science are just as good, if not better, online, and you don't need to pay $160,000 over 4 years. It's completely preposterous that people are doing this, and it's just not worth it, in my opinion. But yeah, those are sort of my thoughts.
Yeah, and that may obviously cause friction, with parents and things like that, or like, you're going to college and this is what you need to do and that type of stuff. So I get that it's a challenging place to be in, because you don't know. I mean, you're taking a chance regardless. I mean, you're guaranteeing you're going to be saddled with, debt if you have to take out loans for college. And so it's like that's a guarantee. And then you may have to spend 10, 20 years paying it back, or however long it takes you to pay that off. So I can see the appeal. And I think in retrospect, going back, I'm thinking, well, maybe I wouldn't have gone if I'd known what I know now. But it's, what's done is what's done. Let me ask you more about your athletic performance, because a lot of people say, "Hey, man, Joe, you can't play soccer without carbs. How are you doing that, man? That's too much explosive activity. That's too much glycolytic activity. You got to have carbs to run fast and sprint." That's not been the case for you, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So it was actually interesting. I was maybe a month or two into carnivore. I was feeling the best I've ever felt. I was playing the best I've ever played, and we had a big game coming up. It was like a quarter semifinal. I was like, I think I want to eat some grain. I think I want to eat some oats before the game. I want to have a carb boost. I want to see how that makes me feel. So I eat a little bit of steak, and I also have some oats. I said, okay, this is going to fuel me up. Oh my God. It was awful. I mean, I still played fine. But I felt like lethargic. I felt like I couldn't think clearly when I played. I had this brain fog when I was playing. I couldn't find the right passes. I couldn't like be aware of my surroundings as I played as a center mid, which you need to be constantly looking all around you. I couldn't run as hard or as much as I otherwise could. It was like the oats just completely took me back. So this idea that we need carbs to perform well, no, we clearly don't. I mean, you're a testament to that. I'm a testament to that. When I went keto initially, I played, off. It was awful. As I said earlier, when I was doing the plant-based keto with tons of coconut oil and olive oil and nuts and seeds and all that stuff, it was terrible. I could barely run. I just got gassed very, very quickly. But going carnivore, from burning mostly sugar to burning fat, like instantly, because I was eating much more fruit probably than Saladino was when I was eating meat and fruit. So I was burning sugar when I played soccer. The transition, not only was it immediate, so I immediately felt better. I could run harder, all the stuff, but it was so powerful. And the people say, this keto adaptation period is going to take you 3 to 5 months. Well, maybe if you eat vegetables, it will. Maybe if you're not eating enough like high quality meat and fat, if you're nutrient deprived, which you certainly will be, if a substantial percentage of your diet is comprised of plant foods. Well, if you eat meat and fat, I'm certain that the transition period is going to be very, very small, if not pretty much non-existent, like it was for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned meat and fat, and to me, meat is fat. I mean, there's fat in meat, so it's kind of the same if you're eating it together. But I mean, so what are you preferencing? Are you preferencing the really fattier cuts of meats, ribeyes, short ribs, briskets, or how do you get your fat in? I guess.
Yeah. So when I started going animal based, what I quickly realized is that so many years of being deprived of saturated fat made me crave it. So I bought like a 5-pound bucket of tallow, and it was gone maybe within like 10 days. 5 pounds of fat just gone because my body was just loving the fat. I would eat spoonfuls of it constantly. And then as time went on, my body acclimated to, having fat around and having those nutrients that were in the fat. And so I slowly started requiring less of it. I think as of this point, as of now, I don't need to eat as much fat as I used to, simply because I feel like I don't crave it as much. I mean, I just listen to my body's cravings. It's the beauty of carnivore. You don't need to follow a certain meal plan to satisfy your potassium, like certain micronutrient needs. You can just listen to your body by eating only meat. So that's what I do. Some days I require more fat, some days I require less. As of right now, I'd say that maybe 70 to 75% of my caloric intake is derived from fat, while the rest is protein.
Yeah, I'm not too different to that. I'd say I'm consistently around 65 to 70, probably realistically for me. What about sodium? Are you doing salt? No salt? What's the plan with that?
Yeah, I'm not doing any salt. I see people do great either way. I don't know. I feel better without salt.
So straight up, just plain unseasoned meat is your thing, right? A little bit of fat.
Yeah, I love it.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's fine. I see people that do well with that. So I guess, you're off to college first day. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm sure you'll document that on your YouTube channel or that. And your YouTube channel is it's Carnivore Camaraderie, I think is what it's called. Tell me a little bit about that. What made you start doing that? Why do that? Why tell people about this? It's easier to keep it to yourself and keep your head down. Why do you want to share this?
Well, I'd always been watching your channel and Anthony Chafee and Ken Berry and Barkay and all these and Dr. Kiltz and all these carnivore guys. And I was just thinking, there is nobody who's really appealing to the demographic of younger people. And I would argue that it's the younger people who need it most. We're the ones who are going to be the future. If we're all mentally ill and requiring drugs all the time, well, we're not going to be able to meet our full potential. We're going to at this rate, we're really going to fail. I mean, things are really looking down for us at this rate. So I'm hoping that I can appeal to younger people, get them to adopt this and understand that a lot of what we're told is wrong, not only in the nutrition realm of things, but just so much of what we're told is wrong, whether it be there's not even worth getting into, but just so much stuff. So that's sort of my message: appeal to the younger people, so we can change this avenue that we're currently going down.
Yeah. And I like I said, as a older person, and one, hopefully not, but if at some point you need the younger generation to take care of you, I don't want a bunch of mentally ill people, trying to take care of me when I'm older. I mean, hopefully, knock on wood, I'll stay robust and vigorous, and I think I will. But at some point, maybe in the last year of your life, you need some care. Anyway, if somebody's mentioned something about saying you eat mostly raw, I mean, are you cooking your meat, eating it raw? Are you doing both? What's the deal with that?
I do both. Yeah, I do both. In college, it's going to be, I might have to do a little bit more raw than I'd like, just because it's going to be hard to cook. We're not allowed to cook. So I'm bringing a crock pot.
What do you mean you're not allowed to cook?
We don't have kitchens. There's no kitchens.
Oh, you're in a dorm, but there's no You got a plug, so you could do it.
Yeah.
You could do like an air fryer or something like that, I guess. Or
Yeah. But it's pretty diabolical though. I mean, like you're not allowed to even bring an air fryer or crock pot, so that they force you to eat their food basically. It's they force you to eat their food pretty much.
Interesting.
But
if they're not feeding you in a way that you find acceptable, it seems like there should be some exception to that. I mean, I guess they're complaining about fireheads. Do you have a roommate? Do you know? Are you dorm with a roommate, or what's your deal with that?
Two roommates. Yeah.
You guys in an apartment or a dorm, or what's living arrangement?
Dorm.
You know who they are yet?
I met one of them. He was curious about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 hours explaining it to him. And then by the end, he's like, okay, this makes sense. But it took a while. And I know that I'm going to be having the same conversation many times at UCLA. I'm also planning to do, there's this path called Bruin Walk, which is basically the route that people take from the all the dorms on the hill, where all the freshmen are, to the classes. It's like super densely populated, tons of people walking down it. And I'm thinking at some point, when I'm ready to leave, I'll just I'll get somebody to record. I'll put up a sign saying something like veganism is unhealthy, and just like debate me, and then we'll get a big crowd going, and should be fun to do. So I'm looking forward to doing that eventually.
Yeah, just make sure you don't get anybody that's crazy and starts being violent about that. That's the thing. There's some that are unhinged, and some of them get very aggressive and type of stuff. Well, so Joey, where can people find you social media?
Yeah, as you said, YouTube, Carnivore Camaraderie, CAMA, RADERIE, kind of a weird one to spell. Instagram at Carnivore_Camaraderie. My email, all that stuff is on my YouTube page and my Instagram. So if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out to me, I love answering emails, and it's been great talking to you. I really appreciate this. Yeah,
let's do this. 6 months after you get a semester in, let's see how things went for you. So that would be fun to see if you don't mind. Would that be okay?
I'd love to. Yeah.
All right, guys. Okay, guys. We'll see the rest of you guys tomorrow. We got to ask tomorrow for our guest speaker. So you guys have a great rest of your day. I got a tri-tip I got to go crush here in a little bit. Take care, everybody. Bye, Joey. Take care.
Bye. Thanks.